A warm welcome to all our viewers. I'm your host, Shivangi Mishra, and you're watching another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. India has once again demonstrated its role as a responsible regional power and a dependable partner. As the ongoing conflict in Iran disrupts global energy supplies, New Delhi has stepped forward to assist neighboring Bangladesh, which is facing an acute diesel shortage. India's quick response highlights its strong diplomatic outreach and commitment to regional stability. Take a look.
The ongoing conflict involving Iran has begun to impact global energy markets, disrupting supply chains and raising concerns over fuel availability in several import-dependent countries. One of the nations feeling the pressure is neighboring Bangladesh, which has been grappling with an acute shortage of diesel and petrol after international supplies were affected by the crisis. Amid improving bilateral ties, India has stepped in with timely support by sending a major consignment of 5,000 tons of diesel to Bangladesh to help ease the immediate fuel shortage. The shipment is part of the expanding energy cooperation between the two neighbors, which has steadily grown over the years. Bangladesh authorities have confirmed receiving the diesel consignment from India and have also requested additional supplies to stabilize the country's energy requirements. The crisis intensified after Iran targeted vessels in the strategically crucial Strait of Hormuz and struck energy infrastructure across the region, causing disruptions that have affected nearly 1/5 of global crude oil and natural gas supplies. In this challenging situation, India's timely support reflects its policy of prioritizing regional cooperation and people-centric diplomacy, while New Delhi continues to review Bangladesh's request, balancing its own domestic energy requirements and refining capacity.
We have received a request from the government of Bangladesh for supply of diesel, which is being examined. Given our people-centric and development-oriented approach to relations with Bangladesh, we have been supplying diesel from Numaligarh refinery since 2007 through various modes, which includes waterways, rail, and later through the India-Bangladesh Friendship Pipeline. In addition, I would also like to say that we have received such requests from several other countries, including Sri Lanka and Maldives. And these are being examined, taking into account our own energy requirements and availability that we have.
Alongside energy diplomacy, India has also been actively working to ensure the safety of its citizens in conflict-affected regions. The government has relocated several Indian nationals, including students and pilgrims in Tehran, to safer locations and is facilitating their return home through neighboring countries such as Azerbaijan and Armenia.
We have shifted several Indian nationals, including students and pilgrims, who were based in Tehran to other safer locations and cities in the country. We are also assisting Indian nationals who wish to travel to Azerbaijan and Armenia and from there to take commercial flights to return home. We are assisting them with visas. We are also assisting them with land border crossings.
Passengers returning to India have shared their terrifying experiences during the escalation of the conflict in the region.
It was very scary and also exciting. The airlines moved us to a 5-star hotel, and there were so many explosions happening around that hotel. It was pretty scary. So we're finally happy that we are back in India. We landed in India. I was so scared until the flight landed as well.
मैं और मेरे साथ कलीग्स हैं, हम लोग 4 दिन से वहाँ पे फंसे थे. वी वेंट देयर ऑन 28 सैटरडे एंड देन उसी टाइम पे ये सब अटैक वगैरह हुआ, सब फ्लाइट्स कैंसिल हुई, बट द गवर्नमेंट गेव अस वेरी गुड सर्विस. दे प्रोवाइडेड अस फूड, accommodation.
In a time of global uncertainty triggered by the conflict involving Iran, India's swift and coordinated actions have highlighted the strength of its diplomacy and its commitment to regional cooperation. By supporting Bangladesh during a fuel crisis and ensuring the safe evacuation of its citizens from conflict-affected areas, India has once again demonstrated its role as a reliable partner and a responsible regional leader. As tensions continue to disrupt global energy routes, particularly around the strategic Strait of Hormuz, India's proactive approach reflects a broader vision of stability, humanitarian support, and strong neighborhood ties, reinforcing its growing influence and leadership across South Asia and beyond.
Moving on, a new political figure is drawing nationwide attention in Nepal. Rapper turned politician Balendra Shah, popularly known as Balan, received a massive public reception after his electoral victory in Jhapa on March 7th. His rise reflects a growing demand among Nepal's youth for fresh leadership, transparency, and political reform. Supporters see him as a symbol of change in a political system long dominated by traditional parties. A report.
A new political phase is capturing national attention in Nepal. 35-year-old rapper turned politician Balendra Shah, popularly known as Balen, received a massive public reception after his electoral victory in Jhapa on March 7. Standing on top of his car and waving to cheering supporters, Shah thanked thousands of people who gathered on the streets to celebrate what many see as a generational shift in Nepal's politics. For many young voters frustrated with traditional political parties and corruption allegations, Balen represents a new style of leadership that mixes activism, youth appeal, and strong social media presence. Support for Balen has largely come from young voters who want political reform and accountability. His rise reflects a broader sentiment among Nepal's youth seeking fresh leadership and transparency in governance.
Now we have finally got the youngest Prime Minister in the world. Hope we will not forget all his promises and will work on the behalf of people. Wish him good luck. Thank you. We trusted you. Now you should not play with our trust. We love you, Balen.
Before entering politics, Balen gained recognition as a rapper whose music often highlighted social issues such as corruption, inequality, and governance failures. Academically, he is trained as a civil engineer and later completed a master's degree in structural engineering from Visvesvaraya Technological University in the Indian state of Karnataka, studying in Bengaluru between 2016 and 2018. His engineering background has also influenced his political agenda with a strong focus on urban planning, infrastructure, and governance reform.
I must say this is a remarkable change because a political party which had absolutely no history except it was very unknown to the people until recently has received a landslide victory. I can tell you that because all these people are new, they don't have any charges of corruption. They are very committed people. They have done very well in their professions. From the area they come into politics. And the organization is very new. They don't have backlogs. And the organization has started to develop its fundamentals. And the way it has been able to deal with the common people, you can see the result now.
The development is also being seen as a positive signal for long-standing ties between India and Nepal. The two neighboring countries share deep historical, cultural, and economic connections, with thousands of Nepali students studying in Indian universities every year and extensive cooperation in areas such as trade, connectivity, and infrastructure. Analysts believe that leaders like Balen, who have educational and cultural links with India, could further strengthen people-to-people ties and encourage deeper collaboration on development, technology, and urban planning between the two nations. For many young Nepalis, Balen Shah's rise is more than just an election victory. It represents a broader hope that new generation of leaders can reshape politics, restore public trust, and push Nepal towards a more transparent, modern and development-focused future, while maintaining strong and constructive relations with neighbors like India.
Time now for Asia This Week, the stories from across the continent.
Jakarta's defense minister said after a meeting with his Australian counterpart that new trilateral security arrangements would be developed. The partnerships are expected to involve Indonesia, Australia, and Japan, as well as another framework linking Indonesia, Australia, and Papua New Guinea. The minister made the announcement while speaking to reporters following discussions with Australian Defence Minister Richard Marles. South Korea said it will work to ensure that its exporters are not subjected to unfair or discriminatory treatment after being included in a United States Section 301 investigation over alleged unfair trade practices. The country's industry minister Kim Jong-un told a parliamentary committee that Washington's decision to launch the Section 301 procedure was anticipated by Seoul. The US military released videos showing what it said were strikes on targets in Iran, marking a possible escalation as Iranian attacks disrupted energy supplies across the Middle East, challenging US and Israeli claims that much of Iran's long-range weapons stockpile had been destroyed. Additional drones were reported flying into Kuwait, Iraq, the UAE, Bahrain, and Oman.
India's education reforms under the National Education Policy 2020 are drawing global attention at the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. Experts and students highlighted how the policy's focus on vocational training, flexibility, and inclusive learning is creating new opportunities for young people. At the same time, parallel discussions at the forum have also raised serious concerns over human rights issues in South Asia, including the condition of minorities and allegations of political repression in neighboring countries. Take a look.
India's National Education Policy 2020 has introduced wide-ranging reforms aimed at transforming the country's education system. The policy promotes a holistic approach to learning by integrating academic knowledge with vocational skills, critical thinking, and life skills development. It also emphasizes inclusive education, flexible learning pathways, and the use of technology to ensure that students from diverse backgrounds can access quality education. By encouraging practical training alongside traditional academics, the policy aims to better prepare students for real-world challenges and future careers. Experts say such reforms are particularly important in a rapidly evolving global economy where adaptability, creativity, and practical skills are becoming increasingly valuable. On the sidelines of the 61st session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, two students from the University of Oxford spoke about how elements of India's education model are creating new opportunities for young learners.
I believe that the population in India and their young people have some of the greatest ambitions. I think given that they aren't handed things necessarily on a plate, unlike some students in the Western world, that it really encourages them to think big and to really take advantage of all the opportunities that are presented to them, and also seek out those opportunities to develop not only their knowledge and progress within the education system and hopefully reach higher education, but also look at their vocational skills and how they can enter the workforce with skills like carpenting or tailoring and things like that.
Both students cited the Akshar Foundation's work in Assam, which implements elements of the National Education Policy 2020. The model emphasizes peer learning, mentorship, and flexible grade placement based on students' abilities rather than age.
I think what other countries can take from India is the need to address the local situations that they're working in and adapt their education models to these situations. I think that's why the work of Akshar Foundation is particularly powerful and effective, because it meets the needs of the local communities and directly works at a grassroots level. The National Education Policy is working to also address the inequalities in education, so I think this is something that other countries across the world can take forwards.
Global Human Rights Defense organized a 3-day photo exhibition highlighting human rights abuses and the deteriorating condition of minorities in Pakistan at the Broken Chair Monument. The exhibition displayed a series of photographs and visual documentation portraying the hardships faced by religious and ethnic minorities, including Hindus, Christians, Sindhis, and Baloch. It also highlighted the constant oppression in Balochistan through enforced disappearances of young individuals, including both men and women, as well as forced conversions of minorities in Pakistan and arrests of several political leaders, including Dr. Mehrang Baloch. The exhibition aimed to draw international attention to what they described as systematic discrimination and political repression affecting these communities. It also displayed photographs of the grim condition of minorities in Bangladesh. Visual materials referenced incidents of cross-border militancy and violence, including the Pahalgam attack in 2025. They displayed the photographs of the victims of the attack and menacing evidence of the carnage, which the organizers said demonstrated the continuing threat posed by militant networks operating from Pakistani territory.
Pakistan's fragile economy is facing fresh pressure as soaring global oil prices linked to the ongoing conflict with Iran begin to impact daily life. The government in Islamabad has announced sweeping austerity measures to conserve fuel and cut spending. However, the move has sparked criticism from traders and raised concerns about the country's economic stability. A report.
Pakistan's fragile and import-dependent economy has once again come under pressure as global oil price surge, exposing the country's deep reliance on foreign energy supplies and limited ability to absorb external shocks. Amid the growing economic strain, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif announced sweeping austerity measures in a televised address, warning that soaring fuel prices linked to the regional conflict could further destabilize the country's economy. Under the measures, all schools across the country will remain closed for 2 weeks starting next week, while universities will immediately shift to online classes to reduce commuting and fuel consumption. Government departments will face a 50% cut in fuel allowances for 2 months, and 60% of official vehicles, excluding buses and ambulances, will be taken off the road.
आइंदा 2 माह के लिए सरकारी महकमों की गाड़ियों को मिलने वाले तेल में 50% फिल फॉर कटौती की जा रही है। सरकारी और निजी शोबे में इंतहाई जरूरी सर्विसेज को छोड़कर, यानी एसेंशियल सर्विसेज को छोड़कर, बाकी तमाम जगहों पर 50% स्टाफ घर से काम करेगा, यानी वर्क फ्रॉम होम। हफ्ते में सिर्फ 4 दिन दफातर खुलेंगे। तेल की बचत के लिए हफ्ते में 1 इजाफी छुट्टी दी जा रही है, मगर इसका इतलाक बैंकों पर नहीं होगा। तमाम स्कूलों को रवां हफ्ते के आखिर से 2 हफ्तों की छुट्टियां दी जा रही हैं और हायर एजुकेशन के तमाम इदारों में फौरी तौर पर ऑनलाइन क्लासों का आगाज किया जा रहा है।
The announcement follows a steep rise in fuel prices in Pakistan, with petrol and diesel increased by 55 rupees per litre last week, the largest hike in the country's history. In the city of Lahore, however, the decision to close schools has triggered criticism from small traders who depend heavily on the education sector for their livelihoods.
जैसे ही स्कूल का बंद ऐलान किया उन्होंने, ये सारी मार्केटें, ये दुकानें बिल्कुल खाली पड़ गई हैं। ये बुक शॉप है, बुक शॉप, यूनिफॉर्म सब खाली पड़ गए हैं। उनको पता है वहाँ छुट्टियाँ पड़ गई हैं, स्कूलों वालों ने फीसें ले ली हैं।
स्कूलों को बंद करने के लिए कोई नोटिफिकेशन दे रहे हैं या कोई उनके सजेशन है, लेकिन बहरहाल ये सही तो नहीं है। इसका कोई ये प्रॉपर हल तो नहीं है। जैसे हमारे जैसे और एक्सेसरी का काम करते हैं, यूनिफॉर्म का काम करते हैं, तो उनके लिए भी एक तो मुश्किल हो जाएगी। पेट्रोलियम मसनूआत की रीजन बना के तो ये तरीकाकार तो नहीं है।
The economic pressure is unfolding against a backdrop of escalating global energy tensions. Oil prices jumped by nearly 20% in early trading at the start of the week, climbing to their highest level since 2022, amid concerns over possible supply disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most vital oil transit routes. Meanwhile, Iran has named Mojtaba Khamenei as the successor to Ali Khamenei, signaling that hardline leadership remains firmly in control as the regional conflict continues to escalate, further unsettling global energy markets. For Pakistan, however, the crisis once again highlights deeper economic weaknesses. With limited domestic energy resources, heavy reliance on imports, and a history of financial mismanagement, the country remains highly vulnerable to global price shocks. As fuel prices climb and austerity measures tighten, ordinary citizens, traders, and daily wage workers are already feeling the impact, raising fresh questions about Pakistan's ability to stabilize its economy without repeated emergency measures and external financial support.
The fuel crisis is adding another layer of strain to Pakistan's struggling economic landscape. And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Till then, goodbye and take care.